Usually, when we talk about a business audit, there's this expectation of absolute precision.
Oh, for sure.
Like, think of a medical diagnosis, right? You break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points at it and says, yep, there's the problem.
Right. It's a binary state. It's either broken or it's not broken.
Yeah.
It's clean. It's visible. And honestly, that certainty is kind of comforting when you're trying to fix a problem.
Exactly. But when you step into the world of analytics, that x-ray machine is, well, it's entirely murky.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So welcome to our deep dive series, Fix the Funnel with GA4. This is episode 31, and today we are completely opening up the hood on Google Analytics 4 setups.
Oh, yeah, we are getting deep into it today. We're taking this massive stack of audit data and research to figure out why business reporting is just failing so spectacularly right now.
And I mean, the numbers here are genuinely terrifying because according to the data we're looking at, 80% of GA4 setups are currently broken, like 80%.
It's just staggering, honestly. It essentially means the vast majority of businesses are making these huge strategic decisions based on instruments that are actively lying to them.
Actively lying. And the sources actually lay out 3 very clear warning signs that your setup is, betraying you right now.
Right. What are they?
First, if you see sudden conversion drops right after your engineering team deploys an update to your website.
Ooh, classic.
Right. Second, your paid ad campaigns are showing thousands of clicks, but 0 conversions are materializing in your analytics.
Yep.
And third, your GA4 revenue simply does not match the actual dollars hitting your Stripe or Shopify accounts. If you are experiencing any of those, you are unfortunately sitting in that 80%.
Which is exactly why an audit isn't just like busy work. It is a critical health check for your business data.
Absolutely.
And we have to start this process at the absolute bottom floor, which is implementation integrity. Because if the foundational data collection is flawed, you just cannot trust a single dashboard or report built on top of it.
Definitely. So our mission today is to walk you through a comprehensive 2026 GA4 audit checklist. We want to help you validate your data, protect your marketing budgets, and basically just stop bad data from ruining your strategy.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So starting at that bottom floor, the research points out that the most common foundational crack is also somehow the most basic double firing.
Oh man, double firing. 70 to 80% of post-2023 migration audits show GA4 firing twice for a single user action.
That's insane.
It is. And the mechanism behind how this happens is actually, well, it's a byproduct of pure panic.
Panic.
Yeah, so during the forced migration away from the old universal analytics, teams were just scrambling. So an engineer might have hard-coded a tracking script into the site's header, while a marketing manager simultaneously added a GA4 tag inside Google Tag Manager.
Oh, and maybe a third person left some random WordPress analytics plugin running, right?
Exactly.
So every single time a user loads a page, the browser is essentially shouting the exact same information at Google's servers 2 or 3 times.
Precisely. And the system isn't smart enough to know it's a duplicate. It just records whatever data is sent to it.
Right.
So if you send 2 page views for every 1 actual visit, your bounce rate artificially plummets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your user engagement metrics look amazing, but your conversion rates look terrible because the denominator, the total volume of traffic, is artificially doubled.
Okay, let's unpack this because double firing your GA4 tags, it sounds like having 2 employees counting inventory at the exact same time and just shouting completely different numbers at you.
That's a great analogy. It's total chaos.
It really is. But wait, if someone is migrating from an old setup or doing a massive site revamp, what's the actual danger of just leaving the old legacy page-level scripts running? Shouldn't a modern platform like GA4 have some sort of deduplication feature built in to catch that?
What's fascinating here is that you would totally hope so, but no. The platform absolutely relies on you to send a clean data. Errors at this base level just compound. Yeah. But to check this yourself, you don't even need to be a developer. You just open Google Chrome, right-click, and hit Inspect to open DevTools, go to the Network tab, and literally just type the word collect into the filter bar.
Because collect is the specific endpoint GA4 uses to, beam that data package back to the mothership, right?
Exactly. So as you load your web page, you should only see 1 collect request fire for that specific page view. If you see multiple firing simultaneously, you've got an overlap issue that needs immediate cleanup.
Got it.
But double firing isn't the only structural issue. Property-level misconfigurations, specifically around time zones and currencies, are silently distorting metrics for about 35% of global accounts.
Oh, the sources use a fantastic example for this, a Berlin-based software as a service company.
Right, the Berlin sauce. So if that company creates their GA4 property and accidentally leaves the default settings on Pacific time in US dollars, their daily reports are misaligned by up to 12 hours.
Right, because Berlin is UTC +1 and uses euros.
Exactly. So let's say a customer in Germany upgrades their subscription on Tuesday morning. Because of the time zone mismatch, GA4 records that revenue as happening on Monday night.
Which completely destroys any attempt at analyzing return on ad spend. Like, if I'm running time-sensitive promotions or trying to figure out which day of the week my Google ads perform best, my data is completely divorced from reality.
Yep, it compounds the error across every single report. If the clock or region is wrong, every deeper analysis misleads the business.
Wow.
And speaking of compounding errors, we have to talk about data retention. Because the default setting in a new GA4 property is to retain user-level data for just 2 months.
2 months? That is nothing. If I'm an e-commerce retailer trying to plan my Black Friday strategy, I need to do year-over-year funnel analysis.
Exactly.
If I haven't manually changed that setting from 2 months to the maximum 14 months, last year's user journey data has literally evaporated.
It just vanishes. And honestly, even 14 months is a huge limitation for a business looking at long-term customer lifetime value. That's why the technical standard now is setting up a daily export from GA4 directly into Google BigQuery.
Oh, right, because BigQuery acts as your own permanent data warehouse.
Exactly. GA4 might delete the user-level data after 14 months, but if it's in BigQuery, you own that historical data forever.
Okay, so let's assume we fix the foundation. The system is only counting events once, our clocks are synchronized, and our data isn't vaporizing.
Love it.
But having a functional system doesn't really matter if you're feeding it garbage, which brings us to traffic quality. The audit data shows that 30 to 50% of apparent traffic growth for many companies is entirely fake.
It's a massive blind spot.
They-
30 to 50%. That growth is often just internal employees, automated bots, or QA testers.
Yeah.
You might look at a chart going up and to the right and celebrate this hugely successful marketing campaign. But in reality, your development team just ran 1,000 automated stress tests on the live website, and your analytics recorded every single one of those fake visits.
That is soul-crushing. So that means we have to actively filter out developer IP addresses and the VPNs used by our remote teams.
Right, exactly.
But there's another filtering issue mentioned here that feels even more destructive for attribution, which is referral exclusions.
Oh, this is a devastating issue, particularly for e-commerce and SaaS businesses. Think about the standard checkout journey, right? A user clicks your Google ad, lands on your site, and adds an item to their cart.
Okay, tracking so far.
But when they go to pay, they are often redirected to a third-party payment gateway like Stripe or PayPal
Or Klarna, right?
Yeah, exactly, Klarna. And after the credit card clears, that gateway redirects the user back to your thank you page.
Right, but if you haven't explicitly told GA4 to ignore traffic coming from, like, PayPal.com, GA4 treats that return trip as a brand new user session.
It does. It breaks the session continuity entirely. So GA4 looks at the purchase and says, wow, PayPal just sent us a highly lucrative customer.
Ugh.
Your really expensive Google ad click loses the conversion credit entirely, the attribution chain is broken, and your paid media team looks like they are failing when they actually succeeded.
So we have to list all our payment gateways in the referral exclusions list. But there is another revenue issue buried in this layer that the audits call ghost conversions.
Oh, yeah.
They are finding a consistent 25% revenue gap between what GA4 reports and what the actual CRM or bank account shows.
A gap that large just fundamentally breaks financial forecasting. And ghost conversions usually happen because events are firing based on website behavior rather than actual database truth.
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, a developer might set the purchase event to fire the moment the checkout page loads, rather than actually waiting for the payment processor to confirm the funds.
Oh, I see. Or, as the research points out, issues with single-page application.
Yes. Single-page applications, or SPAs, are frameworks like React or Vue. Instead of loading a brand new web page every time you click a link, an SPA just dynamically redraws the screen.
Right.
Because the browser never actually reloads, GA4's default triggers get incredibly confused. The URL changes visually, but the backend doesn't fire a traditional page view. This often leads to a sign-up event firing twice or not at all, simply because of how the virtual DOM handles that screen change.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I want to push back on something. A lot of platforms offer toggles for auto-tracking events, and the text specifically calls out the danger of auto-tracking for form submissions.
Yes, it does.
But if I'm a marketer without a massive engineering team, isn't it significantly easier and safer to just flip that switch and let GA4 automatically track every time a form is submitted? Why should you be wary of that?
It feels safer, I totally get that, but it is entirely context blind. To an auto-tracking script, a form is just a piece of HTML. If you turn that on, GA4 will count a frustrated user submitting a contact support ticket as the exact same type of conversion as a high-value prospect requesting an enterprise sales demo.
Oh, wow. So my reports would show this massive spike in conversion growth, but my sales team is just sitting there starving for qualified leads. It completely masks the reality of the business.
Exactly. It creates a dangerous illusion of success. Auto-tracking often counts non-lead forms, a search bar, as massive conversions.
Right.
If auto-tracking is blind, you have to be intentional. You need to use the double view tool in GA4 and manually trace a full user journey. You physically click through your own site and you watch the backend log. You verify that the session start fires, followed by view item, then add to cart, and finally purchase. You are ensuring the sequence is completely chronological and singular.
Okay, so the sequence is pristine, the bots are blocked, and the ghost conversions are exercised. The data is clean.
Clean as a whistle.
But clean data is totally useless if it doesn't answer actual business questions, which brings us to custom dimensions and product linking. You really have to think about your own why here.
Definitely. GA4's default events give you the what someone clicked, someone purchased, someone scrolled, but they rarely give you the who or the why. If you run a B2B SaaS company with 3 different pricing tiers, a generic purchase event doesn't tell you anything actionable. You have to attach parameters to those events.
Parameters like value or currency or subscription plan, because if you don't pass that specific context, you can't ask your data the hard question.
No, you can't.
If my CEO asks, which pricing plan drives the highest 90-day lifetime value? And I'm not passing this subscription plan as a custom dimension, GA4 just stares blankly at me. It knows they bought something, but it has no idea what.
You have to map these strategically because GA4 enforces a strict limit of 50 event-scoped custom dimensions per property.
Only 50.
Yeah, 50. You cannot just track every single variable your engineers can think of. You have to map each technical parameter directly to a specific business question you intend to ask.
And once we have that context map, we have to link it to the external tools, Google Ads, Search Console, BigQuery, ensuring that daily export. But the research highlights a massive trap for e-commerce stores here, specifically those operating on Shopify.
Ah, the Shopify trap. It is a classic race condition between native integrations and custom setups. Shopify offers a one-click native GA4 integration. It is incredibly easy to turn on.
Wait, if Shopify is the platform actually processing the credit cards, shouldn't we trust their native integration over some custom script we built ourselves in Tag Manager?
You can trust it, provided it is the only thing running.
Ah.
The problem is that many marketing teams also have custom Google Tag Manager containers deployed for other tracking purposes. If someone turns on the native Shopify integration, but forgets to turn off the custom purchase tag in Tag Manager, both systems fire a purchase event at the exact same millisecond.
Oh, no.
The result is duplicated revenue. Your analytics dashboard pops champagne because it thinks you made $100,000, but your actual bank account only shows $50,000.
That is brutal. But there is a failure mode mentioned here that is arguably worse because it's invisible. If someone is migrating and we link our audiences to Google Ads, but we use deprecated universal analytics conditions, what actually happens? Does Google throw a massive red error flag to warn you?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the silent killer of paid media campaigns. It does not throw an error. Deprecated universal analytics conditions silently fail in GA4 without any warning. The audience list simply stops populating new users.
And what's the mechanism there? Why does that break the ad campaigns?
Because Google Ads relies on those audience lists to know who to target for remarketing. If the GA4 audience empties out because the underlying trigger is dead, Google Ads looks at the target pool, sees 0 people, and quietly stops bidding.
Wow.
You could go weeks wondering why your ad spend dropped off a cliff, completely unaware that the audience list driving the algorithm has been empty the entire time. it quietly cuts off remarketing spend.
A silent failure is the absolute worst case scenario. It's the murky X-ray printing out a blank sheet of paper, and you just assume there are no bones to look at.
Which highlights why checking audience membership counts is a mandatory part of the audit. If an audience count looks stale or drops to zero, you have a broken condition that requires immediate investigation.
So we've connected our business tools. We have the internal house completely in order. But a business doesn't operate in a vacuum. We have to account for external realities, specifically the legal landscape and how users move across the internet. The rules of tracking have changed dramatically.
Completely. Consent compliance is no longer a nice-to-have feature for your legal team. It is a rigid technical requirement. Consent Mode version 2 has been actively enforced across the EU and the UK since March 2024.
Right.
And in the United States, you have a patchwork of state laws, like the California Privacy Rights Act, or CPRA, and the Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act, the VCDPA, that dictate how and when you can collect data.
The sources mention a specific tool for this, Google Tag Manager's Consent Overview. You use it to find rogue tags that are firing without consent checks.
Exactly. If you open that overview and see a tag listed under consent not checked, it means the tag is firing unconditionally. If a user in Paris clicks decline all on your cookie banner, but your marketing tag fires anyway because it bypassed the consent check, you are in direct violation of European privacy laws.
Yikes.
And beyond the legal risk, it severely distorts your data modeling.
So what does this all mean in practice? Let's play out a real-world scenario with this. I'm looking at my regional reports, and I see a sudden massive drop in traffic originating from the EU. How do I, as a marketer, know if it's a real traffic drop or just a consent banner issue?
You really have to act as a forensic investigator. True market demand rarely drops off a cliff overnight. Consent changes, however, always create visible step changes in your metrics. If you see a sudden drop in new users from Europe, you need to correlate the exact date of that drop with your consent management platform or CMP deployments.
So I'm looking to see if they deployed a new CMP that day, or maybe they changed the color of the accept button on the banner.
Precisely. If the deployment dates align perfectly with the traffic drop, it is a visibility issue, not a marketing failure.
Yeah.
Your traffic didn't actually vanish. Your legal permission to see that traffic vanished.
That distinction changes the entire conversation in a board meeting. It's the difference between our ads aren't working and our compliance is working. Now, while we are talking about tracking users across boundaries, we have to talk about cross-domain tracking. For example, when a user clicks from your main marketing site, say www.example.com, over to your actual web application at app.example.com,
Cross-domain tracking hides some of the most expensive attribution errors in this entire checklist. If a user clicks from your marketing site to your app and the cross-domain tracking is broken, GA4 treats that movement as two completely different people.
which is terrible.
The marketing site, which did all the hard work of acquiring the user, gets absolutely zero credit for the conversion that happens on the app domain.
The sources provide a really elegant, practical testing scenario for you to check this. You should open a private incognito browser window. You go to your main marketing site, and then you click the link to cross over to your app subdomain.
Right.
While you do this, you watch the URL bar and the debug view. If cross-domain tracking is working, GA4 appends a specific URL parameter, usually called _GL, that passes the session ID across the boundary. If that parameter isn't there, or if your session aid changes in the debug view, your funnel is fundamentally broken.
It means the linker tag isn't configured to stitch that identity together. And speaking of stitching things together, this brings up e-commerce order reconciliation.
Right.
The gold standard of an audit is matching the transaction aid in GA4 directly to your Shopify backend or your Stripe account.
Right.
But the research mentions that a plus or minus 15% variance is actually the acceptable tolerance threshold.
Wait, 15%? If my actual bank account was off by 15%, I would be calling a lawyer immediately. Why is a 15% failure rate acceptable in analytics?
Because the internet is a chaotic environment. You have users running aggressive ad blockers that strip out all tracking scripts before they can fire.
Oh.
You have users who close their browser window the millisecond their payment clears, before the thank you page even has a chance to load. You have people using strict privacy browsers like Brave. A 15% variance accounts for that technical friction.
Makes sense.
If your gap is 25%, you have a broken implementation. If your gap is 5%, your engineering team is performing miracles. Analytics provides the trend lines and the attribution. Your CRM remains the absolute source of financial truth.
All right, so the technical setup is absolutely flawless at this point. The foundation is solid, the events are mapped, the consent is legally sound, and the domains are linked.
Beautiful.
But human error can still completely poison the well. Let's talk about the silent killers: UTM governance and account security.
UTM parameters are those little tags you add to the end of a URL to tell GA4 exactly which campaign brought a user to your site. And the level of human error we see here is astonishing. Simple misspelled UTMs can corrupt entire reporting periods.
The text gives a great example. An agency tags an email campaign with the medium social paid instead of CPC.
Or casing issues. One marketer types Facebook with a capital F, and another types Facebook with a lowercase f. GA4 is strictly case sensitive, so it splits your campaign data into two entirely separate rows, making it impossible to evaluate the total performance.
But the error that really drives me crazy is putting UTM parameters on internal links. Like placing a campaign tag on a promotional banner that just takes a user to another page on your own website.
It is a fatal error for attribution. It breaks session continuity.
It's like a customer walks into your retail store and you hand them a brand new map to your store every time they walk into a different aisle.
Yeah.
You completely lose track of how they actually entered the building in the first place. The internal UTM strips away the original session source. Your expensive Google ad click gets overwritten by internal banner click.
You've just blinded your own attribution model.
Yeah.
And there is a modern 2026 attribution issue we have to address here too. AI refer traffic. When a user asks a question in an AI app like ChatGPT or Perplexity, and they click a link to your site from the AI's response, that traffic almost always shows up in GA4 as direct or other.
And why exactly does that happen? Why doesn't it just say ChatGPT?
It comes down to how native applications and secure protocols handle HTTP requests. When you transition from a native mobile app into a web browser, the app intentionally strips the referring URL data for privacy and security reasons.
Ah, I see.
So when the user arrives on your website, GA4 looks for a point of origin, sees nothing, and assumes the user magically typed your URL directly into their browser. Your organic search might look flat, while your direct traffic inexplicably spikes, masking the reality that your content is actually performing brilliantly in AI ecosystems.
We also need to touch on account access because the audit checklist flags this as a massive governance risk. You need to be actively removing users who haven't logged in for 90 days or more. And you should restrict admin access to an absolute maximum of 2 or 3 key stakeholders.
This raises an important question regarding data sharing settings. Because inside GA4, there is a setting that controls whether Google is allowed to use your data to improve its own machine learning models.
Right.
If your legal team has signed data processing agreements or DPAs that explicitly prohibit sharing customer data for third-party modeling, and you leave that setting checked, you are in breach of contract.
Wow.
Furthermore, you should turn off technical support access unless you are actively fixing an issue. Leaving that backdoor perpetually open is a completely unnecessary security risk.
So we have walked through the entire 2026 GA4 audit checklist, but the sources emphasize one crucial point in the outro. An audit checklist without an action plan is just a list of problems. You have to assign clear owners to these fixes.
Absolutely.
Marketing ops needs to own the tag manager container. Engineering has to own the data layer. Legal owns the consent mechanisms, and analytics owns the reporting identity.
Because if everyone is responsible, no one is responsible. Bad data isn't just an annoyance. It is costing you money every single day you wait to address it by misdirecting your ad spend. And manual QA should really happen before every major campaign launch.
It really is crucial. I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to ponder as you look at your own dashboards. Let's say you execute this entire audit. You lock in the time zones, you fix the double firing, you purge the internal traffic, and you map the cross-domain tracking.
Okay.
If you implement all these fixes today, and tomorrow your data is suddenly 100% accurate, what uncomfortable truth about your marketing performance do you think it might reveal that your broken data has been hiding all this time?
That is the real hesitation for a lot of teams, isn't it? That murky X-ray was providing convenient cover for underperforming campaigns and bad strategy. When the picture becomes crystal clear, you have to actually confront what the bones look like.
Exactly. The diagnostic waters clear up, and you might not like the break you see, but at least you can finally set it, put a cast on it, and let the business heal. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, accurate analytics takes just minutes to start fixing. We'll catch you on the next one.